Newsday continues here on One News Now. I'm Charles Lejano. Calls to suspend excise taxes on fuel have been mounting as the price of oil continues to go up. Mobile journalist Pamela Vasquez gives us the front seat to the story.
Energy Secretary Alfonso Cusi has finally spoken out about the brewing oil crisis and says a state of economic emergency is not needed at this point.
Even when you declare an economic emergency, what do you do during the economic emergency? Ganun pa rin eh.
He countered House Ways and Means Chair Joey Salceda, who's been pushing for President Duterte to declare a state of economic emergency in light of the war in Ukraine. Doing so will enable local government units to tap their calamity funds to provide relief to jeep and tricycle drivers, as well as farmers and fisherfolk. Calls to suspend excise taxes have also been growing, and both houses are in recess right now. Salceda insists President Duterte should call for a special session of Congress by March 15.
Halos lahat po ng forecast ng JP Morgan, ng mga stratas, ito po yung mga consensus. Baka umabot ng $185 yan. At ang presyo po ng diesel, baka umabot ng 136, yung gasolina 145 at yung kerosene 129.
There's also talk of amending the oil deregulation law, but it isn't expected to happen until a new administration comes in. For now, Cusi says they will instead double the fuel subsidy program known as Pantawid Pasada.
We have decided to increase it to double the amount to 5 billion. Ang first tranche will be released this month and the second tranche will be on April.
But transport groups says it's not enough. They'd filed petitions calling for a fare hike which Salceda supports.
Since 2018 pa, 9 pesos na tayo. Kailangan po ng shared sacrifice.
Asked whether he thinks local pump prices could hit 100 pesos a liter given the ongoing conflict, Cusi says it's possible.
The future of oil price is uncertain. For how long? This one we don't know. No? So panawagan ko, let's conserve and use energy efficiently.
Mobile journalist Pamela Vasquez, We Are One News.
Senator Win Gatchalian says he's open to the idea of suspending excise taxes to soften the blow of higher pump prices, but only as a last resort. In an interview with The Big Story, Gatchalian said suspending the excise tax will reduce government collections by about 90 billion pesos. Still, the lawmaker said the government should double its subsidy to PUV drivers under the Pantawid Pasada program. Gatchalian also said that this can be done using the president's quick response funds without resorting to suspending the excise tax on fuel.
We still have the quick response funds of the president, where the president can use those quick response funds to give out subsidies. Doubling the Pantawid Pasada to 5 billion pesos is still within the range of those quick response funds. So in other words, we still have other funds that we can tap into so that we can respond quickly.
Finance Secretary Carlos Dominguez says he does not expect the current oil crisis to last long. He admits, however, that the Philippine economy will likely be collateral damage in the ongoing war in Ukraine. One News's business editor Regina Lay with the details.
Amid growing calls to suspend fuel excise taxes, Finance Secretary Carlos Dominguez III is taking a measured approach. He told President Duterte at Monday night's cabinet briefing that he doesn't think the oil price issue brought about by the war in Ukraine will last long.
We do not expect this crisis to last very long. However, there may be some lingering effects. The Philippine economy will likely be collateral damage. It is as if we are hit by a ricocheting bullet.
And that's significant because President Duterte largely leaves economic decisions to him. He assured the president that the government will be able to keep inflation to within 2 to 4% this year. Dominguez also told the cabinet that the Philippines is well equipped to weather this crisis, given past experience.
We have seen similar crises in the past, such as the Gulf War in 1990, the Asian financial crisis in 1997, the oil price shock of 2008, and also the first Russia-Ukraine conflict in 2014. And we have weathered all of this crisis very well.
Back in October, the Finance Department already shot down the idea of suspending excise taxes. At that time, the Philippines was already suffering several weeks of oil price hikes, but the Russian invasion hadn't happened yet. The DOF argued that we will lose more than 131 billion pesos in revenues if they suspend excise taxes. And that's money that was being used for healthcare and COVID-19 recovery measures. Because of the extra expenses from the pandemic, the Philippines recorded the largest ever budget deficit last year. And the bigger the deficit, the more the government has to borrow in order to fund programs. Regina Lay, We Are One News.
An economist says the suspension of excise taxes on fuel is the quickest solution to hold off the increase in oil and commodity prices. On One News' The Chiefs, PLM President Emmanuel Leyco said Filipinos will immediately feel the effect of the suspension of excise tax. But in suspending excise taxes, Leyco said the government should consider the needs of Filipinos whose purchasing power is put at risk by high oil prices. The government believes that the current oil crisis will not last long, but Leyco begged to differ, saying that this is just the beginning and it will get worse before it gets better.
I think we have to look at our economy as a dynamic economic system where you need to make sure that the market forces are at play. They are continuing to play with continuing strength. So with the rising prices, I think it's very important that we make sure that the purchasing power of our consumers are protected.
The LTFRB assures the public that they have a fuel subsidy program to help ease the effects of the rising oil prices. In an interview with The Big Story, LTFRB Executive Director Maria Cristina Cacion said that they have a, quote, basket of solutions available for drivers affected by the ongoing oil price hikes. These include a 2.5 billion peso fuel subsidy program, a service contracting program, and a possible 1 to 4 peso discount on fuel. Cacion added that they are already consulting with NEDA on the petitions for fare hikes.
In resolving these petitions for fare hikes, we have to carefully scrutinize all aspects, and especially on the inflationary impact on our economy. That's why we are consulting also with NEDA particularly on the impact of these 6 pesos and 5. One petitioner is asking for 5 pesos and another petitioner is asking for 6 pesos. So we are consulting with the NEDA on the inflationary impact of these petitions. Even the 1 peso provisional increase, we are also consulting with them.
Senatorial candidate and labor lawyer Luke Espiritu denies criticisms that he's just running for senator to spread propaganda against the Marcoses. On 1PH's Wag Po, Espiritu said that he's taking his campaign seriously and is aiming for electoral glory. Though he admits that there's no easy road to victory, Espiritu said he never considered himself a losing candidate.
Hindi kami tumakbo sa eleksyon para magpropaganda lang. We aim for victory, for electoral victory. In fact, we are serious in this electoral struggle. We are serious to win, and we are ready kapag talagang nagkaroon tayo ng electoral victory. Ngayon, kapag hindi nangyari yun, we won't be discouraged.
Here's a quick look at some of today's headlines. COMELEC will have a formal turnover of chairmanship. The newly appointed chairman, Saidamin Pangarungan, this afternoon. As fuel prices continue to soar, some jeepney drivers are no longer following the minimum fare rates. But the LTFRB warns jeepney operators that this may cause them to lose their franchise. And in celebration of International Women's Day, this year's batch of Miss Universe Philippines candidates answered the question, what makes a woman uniquely beautiful? And those are the top stories at this hour. Join us later at 11 a.m. as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch One News on Signal Play. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com so you can stream One News live anytime and anywhere. I'm Charles Lejano. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.